Welcome to Daily Practice on the last day of the year, and the year is 2025. But if you're watching it in the future, don't really matter. But it's a funny time. We get a lot of exposure to a lot of ideas, a lot of things during the end of the year to reflect and to change and to ideate and see what worked well, see what didn't work well, see where you want to become, what you want to become, and things like that. And I thought this was the right time for us to just take stock and be ready, enjoy what we have done, and welcome the new year. And in the new year, you're ready to become whatever you are ready for. So, this practice today is going to be a reflection on the year, and it will be a 7 ideas reflection. So we'll give you 7 ideas, we'll reflect through 7 things which we can all look at and maybe use for the next few days, next 365 days, and then we take stock and do this all over again. And I don't know about you, but I think I like this time of the year because it's a time to just say pause. We often don't do pause. Ideally, we would be doing pause probably every day. But 365 days later, we take this moment to look inward. And that's where we begin. So, welcome to Daily Practice. However you are here today, I invite you to be grounded, be still, exhausted, maybe hopeful, skeptical, curious, and you're exactly where you need to be. So I invite you to find a comfortable seat. Let your body settle. And if you need to adjust now. You can close your eyes, often bring a soft gaze downward helps. So let's just take 5 full breaths together, and I'll guide the rhythm. So breathe in slowly through your nose. Hold for a moment and release completely through your mouth. Again, breathing in. Hold for a moment and letting go. Three more in. In. Hold. Out. In. Hold. Out. Last one. Deep breath in. Hold it. And release everything. Good. Now let the breath come back naturally. Notice the quality of your breath. And don't change it, just notice. So, today we are standing at a threshold. Behind you is 2025. Everything that happened, everything you became, everything you survived, everything you created. Ahead of you is 2026. Undefined, unwritten, full of possibility. This isn't about making resolutions that you'll abandon by February. This isn't about fixing what's broken or becoming someone you're not. This moment is about recognizing who you've already become and asking yourself, what am I ready for next? So let's begin. First thing is the possibility audit. I want you to think back to January 2025. Who were you then? What felt impossible? Now scan across the entire year. What became possible for you in 2025 that wasn't possible before? Maybe it was a conversation you finally had, a boundary you finally set, a risk you finally took. Maybe it was something you created, a project, a relationship, a routine, a moment of beauty that didn't exist before you made it. Maybe it was internal, a way of thinking that shifted, a pattern you broke, a belief about yourself that you let go of. Maybe you didn't even notice it happening. But something opened up this year. Some door appeared that wasn't there before. You might not have walked through it, that's okay. The door is still significant. So think about this. What became possible this year? And I want you to reflect on this question. What if 2026 isn't about discovering new doors? What if it's about actually walking through the doors you've already found? Take that in for a moment. The difference between knowing something is possible and actually doing it is what we are talking about. So what door are you standing in front of right now? You know it's there. You know it's open. You just haven't stepped through yet. So that's the possibility audit. See what doors are open. Second aspect. Let's look at the energy map. Let's talk about aliveness, not productivity, not achievement, not success, not aliveness, but aliveness. When did you feel most alive in 2025? And I'm not asking you when you felt most successful. I'm asking when you felt most present, most real, most like yourself. Maybe it was in a conversation with someone who really saw you, where you didn't have to perform or explain. You could just be. Maybe it was in your body, moving, dancing, training, making love, swimming, that moment when you remembered you don't just have a body, you are a body. Maybe it was creating something, writing, cooking, building, designing. When you were so absorbed, you lost time. When the thing coming through you felt more real than anything else. Maybe it was in nature, away from the screens, from the noise, from the constant demand of everything. Just you and the sky and the reminder that you're small and that's okay in the grand scheme of things. So coming back to this, where were you most alive? Now notice the conditions around this aliveness. What made it possible? What people, environment, what circumstances? Because here's what people miss. Aliveness is not random. It has conditions. And you have more control over those conditions than you think. What if 2026 is about engineering more of these conditions, not waiting for aliveness to happen to you, but creating the environment where it can emerge? So take a pause there. See what conditions you can create. 3. Let's take a look at the courage inventory. I want you to acknowledge something you probably haven't acknowledged about yourself. You were brave in 2025. Maybe not in the ways that make headlines, maybe not in ways someone else does it, maybe not in ways anyone else noticed, but you were brave. Where were you brave this year? Maybe you stayed when it could have been easier to leave, or you left when it would have been easier to stay. Maybe you told the truth even though your voice shook, even though you didn't know what would happen next. Maybe you were brave enough to ask for help. Maybe you admitted you were lost, you were hurt, you couldn't do it alone. As all part of courage. Maybe you tried something new even though you might fail, even though people might judge you, even though you judged yourself. Maybe you kept going when everything in you wanted to quit. You showed up when showing up felt impossible. So where were you brave? Now feel that bravery in you and see what made that possible. What happened because you were willing to be uncomfortable, vulnerable, uncertain. And here's what I know about courage. It's not a fixed resource. It's more like a muscle, and you have been training it. So what would the next level of courage look like in 2026? Not reckless, not self-destructive, just 10% braver in the right direction, in the direction you choose. What would you do if you were just slightly more brave than you are right now? Number 4, the becoming process. Let's talk about who you are becoming. Not who you want to be, who you are actually becoming, whether you planned for it or not. Because realizing this can change you completely. Because you changed in 2025. You changed from the start of this year. Actually, you changed many times over. But you are not the person who started this journey. That person, like it or not, is gone. But who were you becoming this year? Maybe you became more honest, less willing to pretend, less willing to smile through things that aren't okay. Maybe you became softer, more open, less guarded. You started letting people in again, even though you swore you wouldn't. Maybe you became fiercer, less accommodating, more willing to disappoint people in service of your own integrity. Maybe you became quieter, less interested in performance, more interested in what's real, even if it's not impressive. Maybe you became more playful, less serious about everything. You remember that joy isn't frivolous, it is essential. So who have you been becoming? Now, here's the invitation. What is this person, the one you're becoming? What do they do, or what do they need in 2026 to fully arrive? Not what your old self needed, not what you think you should need. What does this emerging version of you actually require? Do they need more space, more silence, more time alone to think and feel and integrate? Do they need more connection, more deep conversation, more people who actually see them? Do they need to create more, to make things, build things, bring things into existence that only they can create? Do they need to move differently, to train their body in new ways, to remember what strength feels like? Do they need to rest more, to stop running, to allow themselves to be still without feeling guilty? What does this person you're becoming need from you right now? Fifth reflection, the permission slips. Here's something true. You have been waiting for permission. Permission to want what you want. Permission to be who you are. Permission to take space, to stay the same, to say no, to change your mind, to start over. And maybe in 2025, you started giving yourself those permissions. Small ones, quiet ones. And what did you finally give yourself permission to be or to do or want this year? Maybe you gave yourself permission to rest without earning it, to stop before you were completely empty. Maybe you gave yourself permission to be ambitious, to want more, to stop apologizing for your hunger. Maybe you gave yourself permission to be exactly where you are, to stop rushing your own process, to trust your thing. Maybe you gave yourself permission to feel everything, the rage, the grief, the joy, the desire, to stop managing your emotions like they are a PR problem. So what permission did you sign for yourself? Now, what permission are you still withholding? What are you still waiting for someone else to give you? What are you still asking permission for when the only person who can give it to you is you? Maybe it's permission to leave something that's no longer serving you. A job, a relationship, a belief, a version of yourself. Maybe it's permission to begin something that scares you. To be a beginner again. To look foolish while you learn. Maybe it's permission to be seen. To stop hiding your light because other people might be uncomfortable with how bright you are. They may need sunglasses. What if 2026 is the year you stop waiting for permission and just sign your own slip? Go for it. Number 6. Crossing the threshold. You're standing at a threshold right now between you and who you are becoming. Between 2025 2026, between the known and the unknown, the thresholds are uncomfortable. They're supposed to be. You're neither here nor there. You're in between. But here's what's true about thresholds. Once you cross them, you can't uncross them. You're changed. The old territory is no longer available to you. So what threshold did you cross in 2025? Maybe you crossed from dreaming to doing, from talking about it to actually starting it. Maybe you crossed from being broken to healing. You're not all the way healed. Healing is in a destination, but you're on the other side of broken. Maybe you crossed from isolated to connected, from believing you had to do everything alone to knowing you don't. Maybe you crossed from numbness to feeling, from managing your life to actually living it. What threshold did you cross? You can't go back. The territory is behind you now. And now there's a new threshold in front of you. You can feel it. The new year is inviting you to cross this new territory. What's the threshold? Maybe it's from competent to masterful, from knowing how to do things to doing it with depth, with nuance, with your own signature. Maybe it's from cautious to committed, from keeping your options open to actually choosing, from dating your life to marrying it. Maybe it's from productive to purposeful, from doing a lot of things to doing things that actually matter. Maybe it's from surviving to thriving, from getting through the day to actually wanting to be in the day. So what threshold is 2026 inviting you to cross? Now feel what's on the other side of that threshold, not in detail, you can't know the details, but feel the quality of it, the temperature, the texture. What does it feel like over there? And here's another truth. You don't cross a threshold by thinking about it. You cross it by moving, by taking one small step, then another into the territory. You don't fully understand it yet, but you just keep moving. Small steps. What's the process? What's the process we have all created in ourselves, in our lives, that help us take that first step? Is being mindful, bringing attention to what is important for us. Not the whole journey, just the first step. And 7, the compounding effect. There's something you did consistently in 2025. Maybe you didn't think it mattered. Maybe you almost quit 100 times, but you kept doing it. What was it? Maybe it was showing up to the practice. Meditation, journaling, reflection, therapy, training. The unglamorous work of just showing up when you didn't feel like it. Maybe it was checking in with someone you love. A text, a call, a visit. Small acts of connections that build into intimacy. Maybe it was creating something regularly, writing, making music, cooking, building. The practice of making things, not for the result, but for the process itself. So what did you keep doing, even when it felt like it wasn't working? Here's what you might not have noticed. That consistency is starting to pay dividends. Small returns at first, but they are compounding. They are getting stronger every time you show up. You may be stronger than you were, more skilled at something you were not as skilled at, more connected with people you were not connected with, more yourself. Not because of one dramatic change, because of small, consistent actions that accumulated into something real. And this, by the way, doesn't have to be every moment of the day or every day. It just has to be repeated every so often. In the timings is up to you. So what if you let that compound through 2026? What if you just kept going with what's working? And what new small thing could you start now? Knowing it won't pay off immediately, but in 365 days, in 5 years, you'll be grateful you started. Think about it. So let's bring this all together. So 2025 made you into someone new. You discovered possibilities. You found aliveness. You were brave. You were becoming someone you didn't know you could be. And 2026 is asking you a question. What are you ready for now? Not what you should be ready for, not what looks good. What are you actually ready for in your cells, in your body, in the part of you that knows the truth? You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be willing or unwilling. You just need to be able to take the next step. Through the door you've been standing in front of, into the conditions that make you feel alive, with a little bit more courage toward the purposeful person you're becoming. With permission only you can give, and you are ready to give. Across the threshold that's calling you. One step, that's all. Just one step into 2026 as someone who's ready. Now take 3 deep breaths with me. In, out, in, out, and in, and completely out. And place one hand on your heart. Feel it beating. You made it through 2025. You're here. You're alive. You're ready. When you're ready, at your own pace, open your eyes. Come back to the room. Thank you for practicing with me today and this entire year. Thank you for being willing to look at what's real. Thank you for being ready. Thank you for practicing with me. 2026 is waiting for you, and I see you there.